Happy Friday, everyone. We're starting on time again. That's 5 days in a row. And today I have Dean with me, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. So, Dean, thank you so much for joining us. And tell us about yourself and what you do.
Thanks, Eddie. Yeah, good to be on board. I've watched a couple of these this week, so excited to be part of it, as you've been antagonising me all week to get me on the show. So no, it's great to be here. I work for Microsoft as a cloud advocate, which means we basically get to work with a community and people like yourself and others who are on the call and just understand how they're using our technology, and we can feed that back and hopefully make that better. I get to have to do some fun stuff like play around with tech that's interesting and the community are doing, and see what's broken, what's working well, and build demos and all sorts of cool stuff.
You do lots of cool stuff. I mean, I've seen you at lots of events. I think we met in Web Summit in Lisbon, if I remember correctly. And you were in
Yeah,
my
probably
vlog
right.
then,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate that. But you do lots of cool things. I remember at the time, and I don't know how this has gone, so I hope this isn't a sensitive subject, but at the time you were writing a little app where you were going to get the audience to make faces, and they were going to rate your talk using the machine learning and AI. Have I got that right, or have I kind of made that up, invented that in my head?
Yeah. So I've used this a few times. It's still live now, actually. I don't know what the URL is. It's like got some short link to navigate to it. But I originally actually tried doing something where I wanted to have something fun to get some feedback from like audiences at talks. So I wanted it so they could like put their hand up. Like if they put five up, it would be like they scored five. One, it was like one. And then I realized that there's not much training data of like groups of people with different numbers of fingers up. And obviously machine learning and AI is all about the training data that you can give it. So I found it really hard to build a model that was good enough. So I was like, well, maybe we can use a prover model, which is people's emotion and their face. So I went and created an app. It's called How's My Talk, and you can go on it, and it opens up the camera on your browser or on your phone or whatever, and then you take a picture. It uses the Face API to analyze your emotion and stuff, and then it builds like a dashboard that we can show to see whether people enjoyed the talk or not. It's just good fun rather than getting people to fill out a survey form. You don't get as much data, but it's much more interactive and fun. So.
I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, I actually want to use it. Is it open source? Can we use it?
Yeah, the code's on GitHub somewhere. I'll dig it out and share it on Twitter later or something if people on the group want to check it out. It's actually running live, and anyone can use it. You basically just put a query string in with the speaker name, and if you use the same query string for the dashboard, then you get your own version of it.
Oh, okay, nice. Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. And how are things been with you being in DevRel and, with all the situation that's happening at the moment? I won't use the C word, but that can be taken in so many different ways, I just realized. But yeah, we know which one we're talking about, the one that ends in 19. And how's it been? I'm quite curious to know someone, in your position who's always going to events, and how has that changed, I guess, your day to day?
Yeah, I generally work from home a lot anyway when I'm not traveling to events. So it's kind of normal to be at home. It's a bit weird to not be traveling to events and meeting people. Normally I'm spending a bunch of time like preparing content for the next event I'm going to, or like we're doing this Ignite the Tour thing. So I've been doing a bunch of cities there to try and deliver content there. So that eats up quite a bit of my time just preparing for those kind of sessions. So I'm kind of trying to reutilize that time at the moment to try and create some more online content, which, as you know, I've been meaning to do for such a long time, but just finding the time. So, I've just, and the whole team's kind of doing that as well. We're leaning towards that. We're starting to stream more on our Microsoft Developer Twitch channel and do some stuff on there. And I've been helping some of the team with that. And it's kind of been keeping me busy, really. That and having the 4 kids at home, keeping me insanely busy, and trying to focus on work is always a challenge. But from a work perspective, it's not been too bad. I think I don't travel as much as some of the folk in our team. Some of them travel like a crazy amount, like they're always away from home. And I think it's probably hitting them like a little bit harder, a bit more cabin fever than for me. It's generally home quite a bit anyway.
That sounds good. So in terms of the extra online content that you're creating, are you looking to do live streams? Or I guess you mentioned Twitch, so it's more live stream than actual videos.
Yeah, a bit of both really. It's really great actually. The team have come together and they've shared a bunch of best practices from people that have been doing this for a long time to try and help others. We're going to do some live stuff on Twitch. I'm definitely going to do that on the Microsoft Developer Twitch, but we're also experimenting with other stuff. We're running events on Microsoft Teams. So it's got a live events feature where you can run live events on Teams. So I'm actually delivering a session next Thursday on how securing serverless apps next Thursday on that, which is actually on the Microsoft Reactor meetup. But also, I'd like to create some more like short form kind of YouTube style content as well, which I think a lot of the other people are thinking about as well. I think that takes a little bit more planning. I think the live stream thing is a bit daunting, but it seems like it's a bit easy. You just turn on your camera and start building something or whatever, like reviewing a tool or whatever, and people can kind of come along for the ride. I think that's a little less prep required for that stuff.
Yeah, I think they both have different challenges, and with live stream, you're right. You can kind of, I guess, wing it a bit more, and people like to see other people, I suppose not struggle, that's the wrong word, but like to see that other people do struggle, and it's not, because when you do a video that's been highly edited, it looks like super perfect, and like, wait a second, they just built a whole kind of platform in like 10 minutes, and it's like, wait a second, I've been spending months building this platform, and it doesn't work. And I've got all these problems, whereas on a live stream, you're right, I think people can see that it's more authentic, and that's why I've been doing a lot more, I think, live streams than video. But I need to mix it up a bit more. I think with live streams, people don't view it like 24 hours later. If people haven't viewed it, they're not going to come and view it. Whereas with YouTube, with a video, it's more evergreen. People can find it a month later or 6 months later, and it's still getting not loads of views, but it's kind of getting that drip feed if people are searching on Google or YouTube for that sort of topic. So I think having a balance is good, and I've been focusing a lot more on live streaming at the moment. I like the engagement. I find it, well, there isn't the editing. Yes, I have a video editor, so I'm kind of half cheating on that one. But I do like the questions and people's comments. I think that really helps. So, but I look forward to seeing what you create. It should be exciting.
Yeah, a good mix of both, I think, is the plan.
Someone likes
the clock
your clock.
behind me looks like it's got a toilet on it. I'm going to look at my clock now.
Oh no, that's because of I guess it's a window and your Elgato light.
That's the yeah. I don't have a toilet in my clock. The highlight of my day. What you haven't actually noticed is that the clock is completely wrong. I haven't actually got any batteries in the clock. Nobody's noticed that, but they noticed that there's a toilet. This actually, I've got an Elgato key light, and because it's got a glass front on this clock, it's reflecting the lights that I've got and my screen and stuff in it. So yeah,
I had to bring that up on the stream. Great. That really made me laugh. And then, but you're right. When you're busy looking at the reflection, it looks like a toilet. We haven't noticed the clock. You could be in a different time zone, but we have been going for about, I don't know, 5 minutes, and yeah, or even 10 minutes, and the clock hasn't moved. So eventually, someone would hopefully notice.
Yeah, I just noticed I'm using this branded Sports Direct mug for my tea, which I know it's a company that isn't in the greatest light lately. I thought I got this for free. I ordered some footballs for the kids, and then it turned up one of these in. So I was like, oh great, I've always wanted a massive mug of tea that I can drink when I'm at my office. And then somebody said to me, oh, you do know they just add that to your basket by default for like $1.99, and you actually paid for it. And I was like, oh no.
Oh.
So yeah, I paid for it, so I'm going to use it.
Exactly, it's a good size mug though. It definitely is. I think so. So I have to make whoever saw the thumbnail, before the stream started and on YouTube, I have to apologise, and I think to Dean and to everyone, and to give a bit of an explanation. So yesterday I was thinking, right, I've got to get this live stream up. I need to get a link. Oh right, to get the link, I need a title, fine. Description, okay, fine-ish. Thumbnail, uh-oh. So I went to Dean's Twitter, and Dean doesn't have a lot of pictures of him on Twitter. I went through his all the way back to 2012, and
there's some old pictures there.
He's either got like half his head, or like it was too difficult to kind of cut out, and I didn't want to do it like massively manually. And I can see I'm getting really washed out now. I've got a window behind my screens, which is going to get blocked up this weekend. I've got stuff arriving today, actually. So the light just keeps changing. Anyway, ignore that. So yeah, I found one, and he was with some friends doing a selfie. They're on scooters. I'm guessing it looked very Lisbon-esque, and it was probably from like a year or two ago. I know you had that adventure on your Lime scooters.
That must have been the adventure. I think that was the adventure. Yeah, I'm not sure whether the audience want to know the story about the scooters, but yeah, comment in the chat if you really want to know the story. That was actually when we met at Web Summit that year. 2 years ago, probably now.
Yeah, 2 years ago, definitely. Anyone wants to hear this strange story that I really was when Dean started telling me the story. I was really like jealous. I was like, oh, major FOMO. I wanted to join him on this adventure. And then yeah, when he got like caught into the story, I was so glad I didn't join him. I'm so glad I didn't. But if you want to hear about
I'm
that,
lucky I'm still here, to be honest.
yeah. Let us know. If you have any cloud questions, Dean, what are your kind of speciality? So I'm going to get back to your picture in a second. But yeah, just what are your specialities? People have a think about what questions to ask.
So done a bunch of cloud stuff over the years. At the moment, like the majority of my focus over the last year or so has been around security, particularly focusing on serverless and serverless security. That's kind of my key passion areas that I'm really kind of working on at the minute. So trying to do stuff in that space. I think serverless is like a technology that has been around for, well, 2014, I think, when AWS launched Lambda. So we're talking like 6 years now, nearly. And it still doesn't seem like security is a topic that everyone's massively aware of or massively talking about. But it feels like now is kind of the time when people are ready to hear that. So, sorry, my Ring doorbell's going off. It's in my ears. It's coming out of the wall.
I can
It's
hear
like
it
coming
as
off my
well.
Echo. Yeah.
Do you need to get it as
The,
well?
yeah, it's coming in my ears really loud, and I've got like a Ring chime in the corner over there. So yeah, it's just noises coming up in there. But yeah, serverless security. I think it's kind of a good time, and people are ready to have that conversation about it. And particularly at the moment, which I haven't dived into too much yet, is I'm thinking about security with serverless. We always think of it as like a web app, so we talk about web security and putting a WAF in front and the OWASP top 10 and all this kind of stuff, which is really relevant. But there's so many other triggers for serverless apps beyond HTTP. Like you can trigger it via a queue or a schedule, not so much a schedule, but there are other like input, like blob storage or some kind of storage object. And I think there's other ways that we trigger these apps that sometimes we just instantly trust those triggers. Whereas like on the web, we don't trust who's triggering it, right? It's just someone from the web. So I think like there's a lot that I want to explore going forward, not so much what I've actually been doing around how we secure serverless apps outside of HTTP based or HTTP triggered apps. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
I think security is becoming more of a hot topic, but it's always your brother just says your clock is wrong.
Welcome to the chat, Steve. You missed the conversation. He just joins to give me a hard time, I think.
That's too. So Steve asked lots of hard questions in the chat for Dean. Yeah, I think security is a bit like accessibility in the UI, where it's always an afterthought. It's just it's more reactive rather than proactive. It's something when something goes wrong, right? We need to look into it. We need to sort it out. And I think I see it with a lot of my clients. It's just like, well, do you want to do performance? Do you want security testing? And they're like, yeah, we'll do it later, right after we deploy. And then they deploy, then they've got kind of user feedback, and they've got user, I don't know, suggestions or whatever they're doing, or bugs or issues, whatever they need to sort out. And they focus too much on that. I think if it's not part of your process, then it'll only get put in maybe when something's gone wrong. But by then it could be too late, which I think is the
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things that's interesting to me because it spans like the entire like life cycle of everything. Like I was chatting with Donovan Brown the other day, who's my boss, about he's if anyone knows Donovan, he's all about DevOps, and he was saying how like he talks to customers and enterprise, and they're like, I really need to make sure my like Git repo is locked down, and he's like, have you even thought about like your employees' laptops? Like because if someone just gets access to that, they're probably already logged in to their repos or whatever, and they could just grab all the code anyway, or it's stored locally, it's cached locally or whatever. So I think that's what's interesting to me is how it's. And also challenging is how it spans like so many different things from like the person's laptop who's actually accessing whatever all the way through to our back end. So yeah, it's all good fun.
Yeah, that's true actually. Everyone always forgets kind of their laptops as they're always logged in, and they do forget that. And I think that's really important. I see, in like shared offices, like, we work, people just leave their computers unlocked and go get a drink or whatever, and it's just like someone could just come on and do something. It's probably easier than trying to find some weird workaround or something like that. It's easier just to actually get physical access to the machine. So Joshua's asked a really good question. I'll let you answer.
There we go. So what have we got from Joshua? Hi Josh, by the way. We've got what's the biggest piece of advice you would have for developers looking to build more secure products? I think, and this is going to sound like a I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it is a good answer. That's you can tell me if it's a good answer or not. The biggest thing for me, probably, is to run vulnerability tests and just get rid of the low hanging fruit. Like the majority of adversaries and bad people out there aren't that sophisticated, right? So the majority of big breaches that we see are like simple security misconfiguration, bad coding practices from a developer perspective. So I think like just that kind of whole push left thing and just including just standard security testing like web vulnerability assessments into and static code analysis into your pipelines as you're deploying code will capture like some of the low hanging fruit. It won't capture everything. I was playing around with the OWASP Juice Shop the other day, which is a readily vulnerable web app that you can deploy and then try and break into. If you run like the open source web vulnerability scanner, the OWASP Zap proxy is a free version of it. Against that app, you catch about 30% of the vulnerabilities with the scanner. So you don't catch everything. Like some of them are more sophisticated, but if you're catching them, at least that's the low-hanging fruit that the script kiddies are going to go and find, right? Like that people are like these, they're just doing this stuff. And then also on top of that, which maybe isn't so much for developers, is running like security configuration checks, like tools like NCC built a tool called Scout Suite, which checks security misconfigurations in the cloud. There are other open source things out there that do that kind of stuff, but just kind of pushing left and including security as part of your life cycle. The last thing I would say is that one thing I've been kind of banging on at people about recently, another good reason to push left is in like an agile development environment where you're shipping, like, you know this, Eddie, right? You're shipping features where you're like in your day job, like all the time, probably, right? And then I see this a lot in startups. They get like a pen test done. So they'll pay like 10 grand to have like some penetration tester come in, test it and give them a certificate. The only reason they've even done that in the first place is because their VC asked them to do it and said, where's your pen test certificate? And then, so they have their certificate from the pen tester, the VC's happy or whatever. Like that's all good. Like you should still do that process anyway for like a thorough test. But then as soon as you ship your next release, like tomorrow, that piece of paper, that certificate isn't even worth the paper it's written on, right? Because you could have shipped a vulnerable bit of code with a really critical vulnerability like the next day. So unless you're doing like old school waterfall development where you're only deploying and then releasing once you've had a penetration test done, it's all a little bit pointless, really. So just pushing left and moving it into that software development lifecycle is probably the one thing that I would encourage people to do to capture that low-hanging fruit.
I think that's a really good point, and you're right. Most places do only do that kind of pen test once to get a certificate, and then they just ship a load of features for the next kind of couple of years, and to think, oh, we haven't had one done in a while, we should do one again. And a lot of the vulnerabilities are for the script kiddies to get in there. So I think OWASP, the Z-Attack proxy, is really, really good. And I'm actually going to get one of their developers on my stream soon, and he's going to show us have you seen the new heads-up display, Dean, that you can get? And then it's, so you get your website up, and it puts all these tools, like they call it a heads-up display, all these tools down the side. And I think it highlights and points at different parts on your website, and it looks really, really impressive.
Nice. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely check it out, and I'll get, I can't think of his name now, but he gave me a really good demo at Google Next, and I'll get him to do a demo on a live stream for everyone to see it, because the demo was really good. I was just thinking, wow, if it's that simple, why aren't we doing it? But again, it's simple when you know how. It's when he was showing me, it looks simple, but if I had to go figure it out myself, it's, you know, what process do I follow and so forth. So, and they are producing videos on tutorials on how to do that.
And we're trying to make it easier, like I say we, like the community generally are trying to make it easier. Like there's, for most popular like pipeline tools like Azure DevOps or whatever, like I've used Azure DevOps as an example, but Jenkins or whatever, like there's OWASP Z-Attack proxy is already built in as like a plugin that you can just plug in, or an action that you can add as part of your pipeline when you're part of your build. So you can just foul your build if the proxy finds anything like high or critical or whatever your behavior you want to do, basically.
That sounds really good. Can anything be done like that on GitHub Actions now that GitHub Actions is kind of becoming more and more popular?
I'm not sure if there's an action for the Zap proxy, but there may be. I'll have to check it out. I'm not sure on the answer, but if anyone knows, let us know in the comments. But I'm not familiar if that's ready for actions yet, but I'm sure people are already working on it.
It's true. If not, we'll do that. That'll be another stream we can do. Try and figure that out.
Yeah, we'll build it.
Andrew says he's found my next job title, DevSecOps Rel. Thanks, Andrew. Bit of a mouthful. But so I can do everything, right? You can do dev, do sec, do ops, and rel. Okay. Guaranteed job, right? 10 grand a day.
Yeah, you're selling yourself too cheap.
Yeah, that's true. So people have been asking me, how is the hiring side on Microsoft, or I guess in your team, or been? Have they stopped doing that? Have they kept it the same? Are they increasing it? We're interested to know if you're aware of any changes on that front.
I haven't seen any specific changes. Things seem to be ticking along. I saw actually this week that we opened up like last week we had 4 headcount in the UK for our DevRel team in the academic space, looking for people to work with universities and students. So as far as I'm aware, they're still kind of ticking over. Obviously, interviews are happening remotely, but in the DevRel world, where we're pretty much globally dispersed anyway, we tend to do all of our interviews remotely unless people are local anyway. So yeah, business as usual, at least in my team. I don't know about wider. I haven't seen any kind of thing different wider than that. So if
It's
people are
good to hear
interested,
that it's still
check it
staying the
out.
same. Yeah, definitely have a look. I did see something I'm signed up to like, I think, DevRel newsletter, and I did see a couple of things come in from Microsoft. So yeah, people are interested, do check it out. It'd be good. You get to hopefully. Are you on the same team as Simona and I'm trying to think who
Yep.
else I know there.
And Asim,
Asim,
you know
yes.
Asim as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of us. There's not many of us in the UK. That globally, there's probably between 100, 150 of us now.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, a good mix. Asim's doing some good stuff. He's like our green advocacy lead. So he's working on like how we can, not so much, well, both really, how we can be more green as DevRel, which is something this crisis is probably helping us all do. And then the other thing is about just making developers and organizations that make their IT choices in a more green manner, like how can they do things in a more kind of climate friendly way. So Asim's kind of shifted focus to that, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, it was always a passion of his, and so now it's great that he can kind of focus on that full time and push that forward. I saw he had a meetup just before this whole kind of situation. I think he had a meetup, his first meetup, which I couldn't attend unfortunately on that. And yeah, and I think you're right. You know what's happened now. You know, it's devastating, but I guess some of the positives are we're our carbon footprint is going to be a lot lower, maybe not in the server side, but in terms of the airplanes and cars and all sorts. And I think it allows us to scale more, right? You can go to more events now, because in theory, when this finishes at 2 o'clock, so in like, I don't know, 35 minutes, you in theory could go to another conference virtually and be there. Okay, yes, you probably want a comfort break, get a drink and all the rest. But, you know, it's possible, right? Whereas if one was in, you know, one side of London to the other, you couldn't get to it quite quickly, let alone another country where you would have to fly there, or another continent where it's even kind of, you know, even further. So
Yeah,
I think,
I mean, it's opened up all sorts of opportunity. Like we were talking about this internally when we were organising sessions on. I was working with the folks that own the Microsoft Reactor in London about running virtual events because the reactors are closed at the moment. We're not running any physical events there. For those that aren't aware what the reactor is, they're like community spaces where we run events. I think there's about, I don't know the exact number, but there's a bunch of them around the world in New York and Seattle, and London is one of them, which is the folk that I was talking to. And we were talking about like normally we would market an event or a meetup or a community session to like a UK audience, right? But we were saying actually like the times that we're going to run them, actually this kind of works for the Indian audience, and anywhere kind of west of India is still a kind of relevant time zone based on the time that we were going to run it. So we're starting to work where we wouldn't normally for those physical events, because they're only small community events where you wouldn't really market them outside of the UK. We're starting to market them out to with our counterparts in other regions around Europe and certain parts of the world. So yeah, I joined a session the other day from one of our team in Australia that was running a session, whereas obviously I normally wouldn't go to maybe a conference. I would potentially maybe on the rare occasion fly to the other side of the world to attend a large conference, but I definitely wouldn't go there for like a meetup or community talk. But now that everything's going online, it gives me the opportunity to do that. So it can only be a good thing.
yeah, exactly. I think you can reach more people and you can scale more without affecting kind of your health in terms of just going too crazy back to back of conferences. Because I already know you had Microsoft Ignite, was it, tour, where you went like so many places. But now, yeah, you can do that and not affect the carbon footprint so much. So that's, yeah, that's really, really good. And so what do you see? Do you see anything changing coming up, just on that subject before we move on? Do you see anything on that note kind of changing over the next kind of, I guess, 2 to 3 months? Do you think that things will change or continue as they have been for the last couple of weeks? Because I still feel we're really in the early days. People are really, yes, they're holding a lot more online events, but they're kind of dipping their toe in the water. You can't buy a webcam for love or money now at the moment. Everyone seems to be wanting a webcam and a microphone and so forth. So I think people want to do it, but in my opinion, I could be wrong, that I think a lot of people get excited for the first couple of weeks and then they'll just stop doing it. Because it is hard. It's not easy, but it's not really hard either. But it's, it's preparing, setting up, doing the socials, going live, having the energy, having kind of a bit of a kind of idea what you're going to kind of talk about, arrange it with a guest if you've got a guest coming on, and then afterwards it is quite tiring. I'm not saying it's easy, so I think people who do it a couple of times maybe stop. That's my thoughts. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope that doesn't happen. I think, like from our experience, definitely internally with our team, we haven't really even hit the ground yet because we've been spending a lot of time. Like after this, I'm jumping on a call with Brian Clark, who's probably been streaming the longest from our team. He's Clark IO on Twitter if anybody follows him. But I'm jumping on a call with him to see about how we can make it easier for people that aren't familiar with this or haven't done streaming before to get used to it. And back to our conversation we spoke about in previous sessions on the chat is around could we host like a GPU based VM that people can stream from, so that when someone wants to stream on our Twitch channel, they don't have to have OBS and vMix or XSplit installed and set all their cameras up. We literally say, right, we'll call you on Skype and then we'll bring your camera in via NDI, and then we'll just host everything on this VM for you, so I think what we're doing is we're trying to lay the groundwork at the moment to try and make it easy as possible for people to be able to execute on this without the overload. Because you know how much pain like I've had trying to get my stream to stop being laggy, and I've invested so much time in it, and I just don't know whether everybody would be willing to do that. So hopefully other organizations doing the same, and we'll share. I know the guys and Steve can comment on this on the chat, but I know the guys at AWS, and I think you read the blog post how they were using workspaces GPU backed and NDI to do stuff, and we're kind of tagging on the back of that for what we're trying to see if we can work as a solution. We're not quite sure whether it's going to work yet, but yeah, so just basically I'm hoping that other people are kind of laying the groundwork so that it can be as easy as possible for people to just turn on their camera or whatever and start sharing some content.
Yeah,
I think one interesting
really
thing, and this is a question for you, I haven't attended any yet, but somebody said to me they attended a multi-track virtual conference. I'm not quite sure whether that would work, but I'm kind of dubious about that. But I think single track stuff could work pretty well.
Yeah, I was on a DevRel call on Wednesday, and someone was saying that they were organised by James. I can't think of his surname. He runs Red Monk, I think. And this is quite
like Monk Chips on Twitter. James Governor, I think his name is.
Yes, that's the one. You should actually join. There were some really good discussions, and someone on there was saying they ran like an 8-track, I think, virtual event, and I just think that's. I don't know. I don't think you need that many tracks, and you'll still get clashes. I think I'd rather it was a 5-day event rather than say a 1-day event, and rather than having 1 day with 5 tracks, I would, as an attendee, even as an organizer, I guess, I would rather have 5 days of 1 track. Therefore, you can go to the tracks and talks that you want. You might skip a few because you don't want to go to them, rather than some clashing. That's a lot to manage. You need, I guess, people to, because you want to enforce the code of conduct, so you then need people to moderate the chats, and that's quite hard to do. And I think that's not something I would personally recommend from various reasons. But I don't.
Yeah, I just think it seems a bit like, as an attendee, and maybe it's just my personal preference, I think, oh, that sounds like hard work, because I'm just instantly assuming that the tech isn't built for it. So I'm assuming that my experience having to leave rooms, go into other rooms, is just going to be painful. But it looks like Gregor on the chat saying that he said it was good. 4 tracks on at once. He attended a multi-track conference virtually. I'm assuming you mean virtually, Gregor, with 4 tracks at once, and all streamed on YouTube Live apparently. So
Oh wow, all
Yeah, I'd love to hear
streamed
more
on
about that,
YouTube
Gregor.
Live. Yeah, I'd love to
So
hear
how
more
did it
about that
work,
as
Gregor,
well.
when you went between like sessions? Did you have to go to a different YouTube link, or did they share a link to switch sessions? Or
Yeah, because I think so. There are some platforms like I can't think of the names now, where you can kind of you go to a landing page and it lists the tracks, and you click onto it and you can watch the video in the browser. But then you've got to register for another platform, and I don't like that. I think the barrier to entry is quite high. Whereas if it's on YouTube or Twitch, the barrier to entry is quite low. Like everyone goes on YouTube anyway. You don't even have to register, and I think that's really good. But then you're going to have what multiple channels. So if I was running say 2 tracks on my channel, for example, I'd have like Eddie Jowd channel 1 and Eddie Jowd channel 2. And that just seems a kind of I don't want to manage 2 channels, I suppose. Again, that's probably why I'm thinking single track from an organization point of view is I would prefer, and also from an attendee point of view, I'd also prefer. But again, people have done it and it's been successful, so I'll be interested to know as well. There are quizzes, expert areas for Q&A, etc. So that's quite interesting. But again, I think it's like comparing a small event to a large event. And Dean, you go to lots of events. Do you prefer an event that maybe has like, I don't know, 1 track, 500 people? Or do you prefer an event that's like, I don't know, 70,000, I don't know, 30 or 40 tracks? So kind of comparing, I guess the bigger events, you've got FOSDEM and you've got Web Summit. And then you've got smaller events that are, are more, they're still big, still
yeah,
500,000 people, but it's a single track, which I personally prefer.
yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I can't stand Web Summit, by the way. I think it's bonkers how large it is. The I think the yeah, so single track events, things like serverless. We were both at Serverless Days London. Single track event, same. Most of the serverless day stuff, I think, is single track. I really enjoy that. You're kind of forced to watch stuff as well that you maybe typically wouldn't watch, and then instead of going to another session, like if you really don't want to watch something, it gives you a chance to communicate a little bit. So that's it. But then on the same note, I've been to massive conferences. When I was at AWS, I did reInvent multiple years in Vegas. I've done Ignite for Microsoft. Just now, Gregor was there in Orlando, actually, who's here on the chat. And I think those events are much more about, you need to plan. You need to be in the right frame of mind to go to one of those events. You need to prepare for it. You need to plan what sessions you want to go to. And I think most people probably say the biggest value isn't actually the sessions you're going to go to. It's probably the networking and
True.
at those larger events where everybody comes together from across the world. So yeah, so a bit of both, but I think you need to really get in the right frame of mind to go to a big event, and then local smaller events, single track for me personally, but each to their own.
And you raised a really good point that if you've got a single track event and there's a talk going on that you're not so interested in, well, 2 things. One, you're more focused on what's happening. But the second point is, and again, Gregor is just kind of, is going to agree with me, although I'm agreeing with him probably because he hasn't heard what I'm going to say. But it's, if you're not interested in a particular talk, you can then go coffee break, right? Networking. And I think that is so valuable. And I think that's really important. So yeah, I'm leaning towards single track. Over more days, again, I'd prefer that personally, from both sides of the fence. But I mean,
Yeah.
Steve is saying they did multi-track for online event, and there was a lobby when you can go in and choose, I suppose. Did you use any particular software for that, or did you just kind of create, I guess? Yeah, I don't just know if you have to use specific software. Otherwise, if you'd have to have multiple Twitch channels or multiple YouTube channels, which doesn't kind of work so much.
Someone said to me that they went on one the other day and there was like a virtual expo, and they said that all they can remember, it was like Windows 2000, like when you like launch a like AOL CD, and it would be like, I don't know, and then it would give you this like what looked like a building, and then you like kind of walk through, and it was like this virtual kind of expo. And they said it was like really like 90s style, which was quite funny. It reminded me of if anybody's done like mixed reality, when you put it on and you enter like the home, and you're in this home and you can kind of look around, kind of like that, but without the VR experience. Sounded pretty painful from what they were telling me. So there must be better ways to get a lobby to work than that, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking you could. Yeah, if it's an expo, you could. Not everyone has VR though, right? It's quite expensive kit. You need quite expensive, powerful computer to run it. And it just, I don't know, it just wouldn't work. I don't know. I know you see it kind of in the movies and stuff that they do it, and it looks really cool. It just wouldn't work. I don't think we're there yet with the technology. You're right. It would just look, it looked retro, but in a bad way, not in a kind of a good way.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
that's true. It's going to be interesting. I think there are a lot of people streaming now, and I know that my quality on when I stream has taken a hit. So the quality that I send to YouTube actually has increased. I've got a much more powerful computer. I'm using dedicated hardware to do it, and what it's outputting makes me a bit sad because they're kind of limiting what they output. Like I think I was saying to you before we started, saying to Dean yesterday, it was I'm pushing up to YouTube at 1080, and it was outputting at 720, and the day before it was even at 480. So I was quite sad about that. So hopefully they either add more servers, add more clouds, and so I can output at 1080 at least. I'm not even going to try 4K, I don't think, because that will not only kill my internet connection, I think might kill YouTube. Probably penalise me
Is your
for
new
it.
PC ready to stream out at 4K?
Yeah, it is. It's behind me here, and we're streaming on it now. So that's why I've got like our two pictures and our names are just kind of, and the template is the default one that came with vMix. But I will do some customization over the weekend. But it is streaming, and it's doing everything on maximum, and it looks great on my side. Even your video that's coming over the internet looks great too, and then when I see it on YouTube, it just kind of sucks. Yeah, that makes me a little bit sad.
I've got my lighting all wrong here because my lights are set up for when I'm sitting in front of my other camera, which isn't as you know, isn't working at the moment. So I'm still quite dark. I could move them, but yeah,
Yes, and
we can live with it.
in Dean's defense, his camera isn't working, not because of him, but because of me. So, Andrew, how did you choose, when I sent you the link to join me on the stream, I think it was on Wednesday, how did you choose what camera to use? Because Dean says there wasn't an option, and I didn't believe him. And Dean's an intelligent guy, so I was like, if he can't figure it out, then there probably isn't one. So I loaded up another one, another like kind of guest that was me, and I couldn't find it either. So I couldn't find it. But I know you changed cameras and you changed microphones, so I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, for reference, Andrew Heights and those on the call, I joined this call to chat with Eddie, and then he couldn't hear me. So we're doing that kind of dance where he's saying, "I can't hear you. Can you hear me yet?" I'm pressing on and off on my mic and all this fun stuff that you do in any kind of conference that you join virtually. And then I actually, to get my mic working, this Blue Yeti mic that I've got here, I had to go into like my Windows settings and change my default mic to this mic, and then quit the chat and come back into it. So we're not entirely sure how to do it. There you go.
Oh, okay. Andrew's saying
There
he
you go.
didn't do anything.
Yeah, you might have to change the default. I don't know how to change my default camera. I was able to change my default mic, but I'm not sure how to change my default camera. But I'll be googling that with Bing after this.
Nice. As a product placement, but not quite product placement, but yes, nice shout out. I will need to do something similar. I can't get my Blue Yeti to work on Windows. So actually, I tell a lie. It works on Windows and it appears in like the devices, but it doesn't work on vMix. It's in Windows. It just doesn't pick it up in the list. But it picks up my camera, it picks up everything, just not my Blue Yeti. So that's why I'm using a kind of a lav mic at the moment today, going through the camera. So audio isn't as good as it usually is. But your audio is spot on. And you mentioned something else earlier on, and I was going to bring it up, but I've now forgotten. I can't remember. We'll come back to it. So who has more questions for Dean? Lots of hard questions. So yes, ask him lots of tough questions about cloud, and what technologies do you use? I know that product that we spoke about that's open source. Did you use JavaScript for that, or Java, or Python?
Yeah, I'm a pretty bad JavaScript developer, but it was all written in JavaScript and Node. I searched for all the code on Alta Vista. Brian, one for you there. I wrote it in JavaScript. So I was using Azure Functions with JavaScript to make it the serverless backend, so you can send. So it captures the image from your browser with JavaScript, just doing some kind of basically grabbing the camera source within the client, and then it sends the picture it takes a picture and then it sends that picture to Azure Functions. Azure Functions just keeps that in memory. We don't store the picture anywhere. We send it to the Cognitive Services API. There's actually like a face API. You don't have to provision any models or anything like that. And then that'll give you back some information. So it'll tell you things like, well, initially it will just tell you some data around it, like the emotion and stuff. And then took me a little while to work this out and dived into the docs. You have to add like an array of the options that you want to get. So you can say like, have they got a beard? Have they got glasses? All this kind of stuff. So you can just tag a load of options on there, which I did. And then basically it sent that back. I got that result back to my function, and then I just put it into a Cosmos DB database. Not the image, but just the metadata. So it's completely anonymized. I don't know who it is. I've just got like the age, the emotion, whether they're wearing glasses, whether they've got a beard, some other stuff. I can't remember what all the features were. But and then my dashboard uses Cosmos DB, just queries the Cosmos DB. Another function that queries the Cosmos DB. What I want to do, and I haven't quite got around to yet, is I want to make the dashboard real time. So at the minute I have to hit refresh in the browser. So I was looking at the SignalR service from Azure. Are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not actually. I haven't heard of that. I was going to mention I have a stream in a couple of weeks with someone, a DevRel from Ably, which do real-time stuff. But I thought, yeah, if you're using the Azure ecosystem, I'm sure they have something there.
Yeah, so SignalR was literally SignalR was additionally a .NET thing. It's been around in .NET for years for real-time apps from .NET. And then what we launched a couple of years ago, probably now, was the Azure SignalR service. So it's like a hosted SignalR service. We did a bunch of work to update all like the docs and the SEO for it, because when people search for it, it always just come up as like a .NET product, but that's not true at all. Like you can use it in any language you want. It's just a service that basically it's like Socket.io or something like that. It's using WebSockets and falls back to like long polling if not possible. And you can basically just have that push data back to the client as all of these kind of real-time communication things do. Front-end dev isn't my speciality. I'm sure anyone who's watching this and knows me will vouch for that. I did a demo once when I was at AWS at the time. This is when Lambda first launched in 2014 at the AWS Summit in London to the audience about Lambda. And I did like a simple API example, and I got a bunch of people tweeting me. I think it was actually instigated by my brother, because it normally is, giving me crap about how my design skills were so bad in the front end. It was just like a default input box. And I think Jeff Nunn, I don't know if Jeff Nunn's still on the chat. I saw he said, "Hi, hey Jeff, I haven't spoken to you for a while." But I was also at an IoT hackathon in Vegas with Jeff, and he helped me out massively with my front end stuff, because we built a cool app there where we were at a hackathon and we were helping out. It was when I worked on the Alexa team, so we were helping out people in the hackathon. We were like, while we're sitting here, we may as well build something ourselves while we're all here. So me, Jeff, and a couple others, we decided to build a kick-up counter. So we got an IoT device, we embedded it in like a soft football, and then we used the accelerometer to see how many times it counted. And then because it didn't have a UI, we used Alexa to reset it and to tell us the score. Because it didn't have like an interactive UI, I think we had a web browser where you could just reset the game or something like that, or it told you the score in a web browser, but to reset the game you used your voice. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, the web front end was crap, and Jeff come to my rescue and helped me build this beautiful looking UI in about 10 minutes and made me look like a complete amateur. But yeah, that was helpful.
I think it comes back to what I was saying before, that it's easy when you know how, and if you don't know how, it's hard. And we can't know everything, right? We have our area of focus, our area of expertise, and we have other areas that we're aware of, or we know someone that can help. And that sounds like an awesome project, like doing a kick-up counter and then using Alexa. I mean, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, we did a demo, and then I think like one of the really senior VPs was there as like a judge or something like that. And then I can remember it didn't work in the demo, and he just like, because we were like the people that were meant to be mentoring the hackathon, completely like ripped the crap out of us for it in front of the whole audience, which was quite funny. But yeah, it was good.
That's
fun.
A bit harsh.
The demo never worked. Yeah, I think it was because we were trying to sneak in an entry when we were all far more experienced with Alexa than everyone else in the room. So,
but in your defense as well, you were probably spending a lot of the time helping other people. So it's not like you had the duration of the hackathon to build something, right? You were using it, filling the gaps. So in your defense, you didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. I'll take that. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of time. It was a good reason.
and I think something to learn from that as well is at a hackathon, always have like a video ready. So therefore, if your demo doesn't work, you can show a video. And Andrew and me did
Yeah.
that. We gave a talk at CityJS. We sent them our slides, and we had embedded a video that would only show if the demo didn't work. Otherwise, we'd skip over it. The demo didn't work. The video didn't work because I can't remember what it was. Andrew managed to fix it. He managed to like look at the source and get the URL and just put it in a new tab. For some reason, I don't know what browser it was, but the video wouldn't play. And I was like, oh my God, we had a plan B, but Andrew thought quickly on his feet and did a plan C. So yeah, that's quite hard. Talking about
Nice.
hackathons, when is the next hackathon? Because there are a few I've seen virtually that are happening. There's one this weekend on UX, but again, specifically for COVID. And then next weekend, there's another one for organised by women-driven development. Everyone's welcome on the similar subject.
Do you know what? I actually haven't been. I know there was one that our Israel team were running, Corona focused as well. Um, Not entirely sure what others are. But you know what? I keep thinking about this, and I just haven't had the time. You know what it's like? I haven't been and attended a hackathon for so long, and I actually just love it. It's like if anyone watching this hasn't been to a hackathon, like just go. You get to just shut off like for a couple of days and just build something that you'd never normally build, learn stuff you'd never normally learn. Um, and you could build quite a lot in a couple of days. I used to do so many hackathons, but I just haven't had the chance to go to any recently. I'd love to go to some more actually. That's probably going to be my post quarantine resolution. To be honest, I'm not sure how the virtual hackathon thing would work. I mean, I'm sure it's great and I appreciate people are doing it. There's really good cause and all that kind of stuff. But personally, I like the idea of actually like just leaving the house, going away somewhere, locking myself in a room for however long it is and just cracking out on something without any distractions. And some people were able to do that, but with my kids running about, I'm not sure I could get away with a whole day doing that right now.
Andrew tells me that his kids, bring him lunch, they're little helpers. So, I'm expecting the kind of arms to pop in the side and go, here you go, here's your awesome burger with beer and, and then you got another one washing the car.
Fresh cup of tea would be nice. Fresh cup of tea, pack of biscuits.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can't see that happening. They're not in the garden at the minute. I'm surprised you can't even hear them just like going mental in the garden.
The virtual hackathon is going to be interesting. I'm actually speaking to Phoebe and Misa, who are running the hackathon next weekend, and to see if I can maybe do some behind the scenes. I don't know if I'm going to participate, although I'm quite keen to. Someone came up with a really good idea on Facebook yesterday, and I'm not going to share it. I don't want to give the idea away. But if I don't do it, then I will definitely share it if someone else wants to take it. But it does involve real time as well, so it's actually quite interesting. So Dean, you got to be thinking now. Next weekend, what are you doing? Maybe we should do do a virtual hackathon. But yeah, my goal I think next weekend is to live stream like from different teams, like spend like 15 minutes with each team, like maybe on Saturday lunchtime, see what they're thinking about building, etc. and so on. And then kind of that'll probably take like 2 hours, and then Sunday late morning again to speak to each team, see what they've built and so forth. So I'm trying to do like
A bit like Robot Wars. Do you ever used to watch Robot Wars?
I did. Did they go around? I don't remember.
Yeah,
I always just watched the
they used
fights.
to go around the back. They used to go around the back and talk to the team, say like, "How did you build it? What have you been working on?"
That's true.
It's normally some kid with a dad who's well cooler than me because like I won't be able to build one of these robot things. And then and then they'd have the fight thing at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Now you mention it, I do remember them going around and getting behind the scenes. So yeah, something like that, I think. I don't want to interfere with their plans. I want to speak to them and see how they're planning to do it. Maybe they're planning to do that already, and I don't want to obviously interfere with that. And if they are planning to do that, maybe we'll build a team and take part. So anyone watching wants to take part in a hackathon, definitely follow on socials, and we'll chat and see what comes up. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more over the next couple of months. And also, if you know of any hackathons, do share them with me, because I'm always quite keen to see what's going on. I still think, having a team of 4 or 5 people remotely, it's not the same as being in person, like you said. You don't have that, I guess, that complete focus, the energy, the adrenaline. But doing virtually, yeah, I think you can still kind of work. I don't think I've done a virtual hackathon properly, as in I've popped in, helped some people, kind of popped out, but I don't think I've actually, I'm trying to think, my memory's terrible, but I don't believe that I've done one where I'm like, I've got to win this, or it's just been for a bit of fun and it hasn't, if I didn't deliver, it didn't matter. There was no big demo at the end. So If anyone has done a virtual hackathon before, let us know what your thoughts are in the chat, if it was good, bad, or if you haven't
Yeah,
done.
and if you know any good ones coming up, let us know. Yeah, I'd love to hear more. I'm actually trying to do, because I'm doing more security stuff. I initially was like doing a bunch more stuff in Python than I normally would. I used to do predominantly like Node for anything I was building, and then I've kind of switched to Python, and which is great. And I've done Python on and off for years, so I can kind of fumble my way through and get stuff working. Um, but I'm now really keen. I want to learn Golang. It seems that like
Interesting.
I'm trying to build some open source tools, mainly around like command line style tools for security, things like checking for certain like misconfigurations in the cloud and those kind of tools I mentioned earlier. So I'm just laughing at that comment. But I but yeah, so I want to learn Golang. So if anybody either wants to join a hackathon and you know Golang, you can help me out. I'd love to partner up and do it. I think that'd be a great way to actually learn a new language or something you want to experiment with. Um, and if anyone knows about Golang and wants to talk or help me out with it, I'd love it. I'll help you out with anything else if you're going to help me with some Golang stuff. But I want to basically build some CLI tools with it. Is my current thinking. Hence, and it
Nice.
seems to be really performant around concurrency and stuff like that. So that's my current thinking around it.
Yeah, it's really good around concurrency, and also the binaries that it creates are cross-platform, which I think is really
Yeah,
interesting. You don't have to have, like with Java, yes, it works cross-platform, but you have to have the JVM installed. But I haven't done a lot of Golang, so I don't know. But my understanding is that it has everything in that binary. You don't actually have to install anything, and I think that's very impressive. So I do agree
yeah,
with
I
the
like
CLI
that.
stuff.
I'm reading a book at the moment called Black Hat Go, um, which is basically a whole book around helping you build security tools with Go. There's actually a book that's been a really popular book for years called Black Hat Python around building security tools in Python. And they just launched like last month the Go book. So I'm currently reading that to try and bring myself up to speed when I get a chance. So yeah, um, I'll report back to you about how this goes.
Yeah, do let us know. And also, at one point, I want to mention that the people, from what I understand, a lot of the Go people have been. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Turn it on. It's off. A lot of the Go people have been moving to Rust. Have you considered Rust? Is it not the same? I don't know much about it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I have seen that a little bit, but I don't know if I'm right or wrong. But I kind of see Rust as it's more for me. That seems to be more of a replacement to C. I know because of the I can't hear you by the way, Eddie. I've lost you. I don't know if it's my headphones. Um, we'll see. We'll do the dance. Eddie, chat for a minute. I'll be my audio. Oh, is it something to do with your mic, Eddie? Is that what you're saying? You're holding up the microphone thing. Oh, he's nodding at me. Ah, there you go. His battery's gone on his Rode mic. So no, I was just saying that I think that I see the whole, and I could get my terminology wrong here about memory leakage and stuff with Rust as a really important thing. I know that Microsoft Research Security Response Center did some really interesting posts around the amount of vulnerabilities that are found in like operating systems in C based on memory leakage, and how that if we wrote our operating systems in Rust, then we would be able to do some interesting stuff. Yeah, I'm on my own, Gregor. I'm Rust is a bit good, but a bit complex. Python can be called from it. Best talk with London Rust meetup. They do great events. Cheers, Brian. Yeah, there's a guy on our team actually called Ryan Levick, who is based in Germany, in Berlin. He is actually one of the Rust, like on the Rust core team. He's been really helpful. But for me, I think it's just a little bit too low level from what I know about it. So I think Go is where I'm gonna stick at the moment, and go, excuse the pun, along with that. So yeah, I'll see how I get on. I've got another. I'm very lucky that I work in a team full of people that know this kind of stuff inside out. I've got we might have Eddie back. There's another guy, two guys in our team, Brian Kettleson and Eric St. Martin, who wrote the Go in Action book for Manning. So I'm quite lucky to have access to these people should I need to. But yeah, I'd love to collaborate with people on it if they're interested.
Hopefully I'm
So
back.
Gregor's asked, yeah, you're back. Hey,
Cool.
um, Mike killed.
Yes.
Greg has just asked on the chat, are there any plans for more dev advocate stuff online in the future due to us all being at home? Yes. Check out Microsoft Developer on Twitch if you're talking about Microsoft stuff, Gregor. I'm literally leading a project at the minute to sign advocates up to deliver sessions twice a week, starting next week on that channel. I've agreed a slot. It's obviously owned centrally, so I've agreed a couple of slots a week, and I'm organising advocates to deliver regular content on there. And yeah, we should hope to see more. There's going to be some more online events, some more local stuff. The London Reactor team are doing some stuff on Team Live events, which they're marketing on Meetup, on their normal Meetup page, where they would market their physical events. So the URL is twitch.tv/Microsoft Developer. I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, feel free to put it in the chat, Dean. If it marks it as blocked, I'll just approve it, so that's fine. Don't worry. So I had to go. Yes, my road I've been using for a few days and it went flat. But I have two of them, so I just got the other one out and just plugged that in. So I'm glad it's working. I haven't used this one in months. I don't know how the batteries are on this one, but hopefully it lasts another 5 minutes. I need to fix my Blue Yeti. Dean, you have to help me. Why it doesn't work?
I switched to Windows like a week ago from using a Mac for about 6 years. So I might work for Microsoft, but I'm the Microsoft guy that normally turns up with a Mac. So I'm not sure I'll be able to help you with your Windows issues, mate, unfortunately.
No, that's fine.
But
No
I'll do my
worries.
best. I'll do my best.
No, it's okay. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Did you share that link? It hasn't come up in my chat.
I think, Gregor, did you get it? I can see it on mine.
Oh, okay. I can't see it on mine. As long as it's there, that's fine. It usually comes up and says, "Do I approve?" But nothing came up. I can't see the link either, so I'm not sure. That's fine.
Interesting.
So we've got a few minutes left. If anything didn't come up yet, then maybe we can tweet it afterwards, or put it in a comment in the video afterwards. Because when I hit end, we can put the comments and it will last. Because in the chat it goes anyway. But
Yeah, I'll
got a
share
few-
my how's my talk thing, and I'll also share any of those links that might be useful to people who want to do more or attend more online events that we're running.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'll pin that comment, and therefore it's always at the top under the YouTube video, so people can see that. That'd be awesome. I was going to say we've got a few minutes left, so everyone watching, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. That really helped my stats, and subscribe if you haven't already, so you get notified when we do more videos. And I think we should get Dean on again, and we should do some coding next time, I think, and get him to do some Go CLI, or at least stream on your own channel, Dean. I want to watch that. So yes,
Yeah,
subscribe
I've got that sorted now. So yeah.
to Dean's channel. So where do you stream, Dean? Do you stream only on the Microsoft channel on Twitch, or do you have your own?
So I will be streaming on the Microsoft channel on Twitch the week after next. I'm streaming on the Teams live thing from the meetup next week, which I'll put in the comments as well. And my own Twitch is CloudSec TV, so Cloud Security TV. So I'll be twitching on there around all things cloud security. I haven't started yet. I've been getting everything set up, so I'm going to start streaming next week on there. What I'll be doing is reviewing open source, well, not necessarily open source, but mostly open source cloud security tools, and like getting them set up, building them, all that kind of fun stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, when your comment, add those links to your Twitch as well. It'd be really good. I'm sure I'm subscribed, but just in case I'm not, I want to definitely subscribe again and see those. And if you don't do a stream at least twice a week, then I want to chase you and make sure because I know you've got the kit. I saw your tweet from like 4 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, about you bought the Elgato Lite. So I know you've got the kit. Just want to.
I've got the light, all the gear, no idea.
Yeah, that sounds like me as well. There's a question from Diego. Hey Diego, thanks for joining from Portugal, which I think is a really good question. I've just brought that up on the screen. I wonder if you can answer that before we go.
Yeah,
Any
I think
advice? 22-year-old.
the advice to get into Microsoft as a job. Interesting question. I think just one thing that I found to be really helpful, not just getting into Microsoft, but to any kind of large company, is that when you apply for a role, if they kind of like check you out and Google you, I think it adds a lot of weight. So community contributions, like have a blog, do things like this, like on your own live stream, and you'll like just grow your network within the community. I think that's probably the best way to go about it. When you put that, so when that CV lands on someone's desk and they're trying to evaluate, if they just like, I always do this when I'm about to interview somebody, I always go and Google the person and see if they've given any talks anywhere, they've got any blog content, just to see what kind of stuff they've done. So yeah, I think that's so I think yeah, that would be my top bit of advice, would be to do that, and then to yeah, grow your network in the community. So deliver your own content, but also be part of the community, like be active, because that will just help you get doors. If we meet each other at events or we know each other from Twitter, then there's much more opportunity that you'll both see opportunities and be able to have that personal interaction with a hiring team or somebody who could refer you into that particular role. Most large tech companies do referrals, so I would encourage you to, if you want to go for a job at a tech company, speak to someone you know that works there and get them to refer you in. It always helps out.
That's really good advice, Dean. That's good. It's really good advice. And Diego, I know I met him at Web Summit actually. I think the year that I met you as well, and he was also in the same video I think that I did of Web Summit.
Oh,
And
nice.
he was really good in front of the camera. But I don't think he's done any videos since that I know of. So Diego, do some videos, and we look forward to let me know as well if you do them. I can reshare them on Twitter, and I'd love to subscribe to a Twitch or YouTube channel, whatever you use, or blog post, whatever you do. So that's awesome. I know Dean's got loads more stuff to do this afternoon, so any other questions, leave them in the comments after the video, and myself or Dean will answer them when we get time later on today. Being a Friday, lots to get done today, and I need to end the stream hard on 2. We're already a minute over, so luckily we started on time. I want to say a big thank you to Dean for joining me today. I think everyone found it really good fun, entertaining, as well as valuable, and lots of knowledge there. I know we could probably talk all afternoon about geeking out, but Dean will do a coding live stream. People have already requested that in the chat, and if he doesn't, I'll chase him and make sure I get him on my channel to do one of those as well. He can teach me some Go.
Nice. Yeah,
Thanks
thanks for
everyone
having me,
for
Eddie. It's been
joining.
great.
Awesome, Dean. Dean, stay on for 2
Cheers
more
all.
minutes, but I'm going to end the stream, so we'll just say bye to them, and I'll chat to you for a couple more minutes. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good day.
See
A
you
great
later, folks.
weekend. Oh, I thought I forget before I end it. Everyone watching, I'm doing a technical quiz tonight on my other channel, Code Mortals, at 9 o'clock. And it's going to be like some coding questions, some 90s, 80s retro game questions. So join that tonight. I'll be doing that with Andrew. And then Brian also did a set of questions as well. So one of the rounds is from him. So we'll see you then. Have a great weekend, everyone.